Welcome in, Paul Kuharsky podcast, part of Braden Gall's Excellent 440 Network. I'm Paul Kuharsky at paulkuharsky.com. Good to see some of you straggling in here. Looking forward to more. The silence is deafening. Ralph had to wait for a minute. So build a little anticipation there, Ralphie. How are you? Welcome. Anxious to talk about a few things, take a couple questions as we continue our it's a little less than a month till training camp now. I know the wait is killing some of you. I am enjoying it, as I always do. Want to talk about some of the quarterbacks the Titans are going to face now, and some of the concerns I'm hearing about PSL stuff that's coming up with regard to the new stadium, which seems a long way off, but really isn't. And then we'll get into some of your questions. We'll keep it sweet and tight as the off-season silent period warrants. We'll get about our business. I'm going to New York tomorrow. It's going to be an exciting couple of days. Looking forward to that. So here we go. We were talking about this on Robbie and Rex Road. Robbie brought this up on Wednesday morning. I wanted to spin off of it. The Titans face some very serious, very good quarterbacks this season. Aaron Rodgers, Love, Tua, who's more about his weaponry, Allen, Goff, Herbert, Stroud twice, Lawrence twice, Burrow. Say what you will about that group. Pretty solid quarterback play, which makes their games against Chicago, New England, maybe the Vikings, and certainly the Commanders, real opportunities for them. Week 1 against Caleb Williams, week 9 against Drake May, week 13 against Jalen Daniels, week 11 maybe against J.J. McCarthy, probably against Sam Darnold if they stick to playing there. Titans have to, I would think, fare well in these games against rookie quarterbacks to make up for some of the really good quarterbacks that they will be facing at other times. And it leads us to their biggest real uncertainty that's left. And the thing, if we could have seen them address one more thing in an offseason where we knew they weren't going to be able to get to everything because they had so many holes. And a lot of people will say safety, and still the possibility maybe of Justin Simmons, Diggs, to pair with Hooker and to replace Molden and bump him down into more of a situational player. But the thing they really need is an edge pass rusher to go with Harold Landry and Arden Key, kind of make Key the third guy, more of a Danico Autry replacement. And that's a guy they really didn't have a chance to replace. We know they're going to be more of a blitzing defense. We know they're going to be more capable of blitzing based on the outside coverage they're going to get from L'Jarius Sneed and Awuzie, outside from Roger McCreary, inside. Tighter coverage we expect. But, there's timing there, too, that comes in coordination with the pass rush that's got to make the quarterback throw the ball. Those guys can't cover forever. Against these rookie quarterbacks, many of them mobile, certainly Williams and Daniels and May can move away from some problems as well. Titans going to have to find a way, as we know against rookie quarterbacks, the way to have good success against them early is to frazzle them, make them frazzled by getting in their faces, getting them off their spot, making them have to sort through having to not being able to drop back to their spot. Now, that's an appealing quality of some of these guys, is that they can throw on the move and do all of those things, and that's increasingly what we see from young quarterbacks in the league. But that's what you want to do, is you want to hit them and you want to rattle them early. Al Davis's favorite, one of his favorite mantras, you got to hit them and you got to hit them early. I think still very relevant in today's game. Now, you also have to hem them in a way that they're not going to be able to kill you with a 35-yard run when they escape your pass rush. But I think these 3 games, maybe 4 with the Vikings. So I think the Vikings can be a successful football team with Darnold, maybe with McCarthy, because they're well built. Otherwise, more talented, certainly. and Chicago might be talented, but you're getting them right out of the gate. Um, Titans, and you say it's too easy, right? In June to say you've got to win this batch of games to offset that batch of games, and then things, reason the NFL is so great, I say constantly, is because of unpredictability. But on paper, you look at it and say, boy, it'd really be good if they could beat those rookie quarterbacks, because Jordan Love is on the rise and Aaron Rodgers can still really get you, and Allen and Herbert and Burrow and Stroud, if he's coming on, are going to be tough quarterback challenge games, big tests for Denard Wilson and that defense, particularly Williams out of the gate week 1. Everybody expecting the Bears just go on and win that game. I'm not thinking so as much. Tall Texan here saying interior pass rush nowadays is just as important as edge. If Sweat pans out, then I think they'll be just fine. Well, still, if Sweat pans out, you've got Sweat and Simmons and Key and Landry. Is that front four as good as, say, Bud Dupree at his best with Landry, with Autry and Simmons? I'd say no, because unproven factor. Autry much better than Key. Is Sweat going to be much better than Autry? I know we're talking about guys with different roles, but we knew going into some of those seasons that the Titans would be able to get to the quarterback with 4 with relative frequency. We do not know that now. And so that's one of the big question marks going into the season, one of the big concerns. Key has become more of a question mark. He doesn't have a full endorsement of this staff going into this season the way that the last coaching staff was part of the reason that Key showed up, and they certainly were more into him than this staff is. He can rush the passer. He's spurty. They don't necessarily want him to be a 3-down player, but he's got every opportunity to be one because there's no one to pressure him for that thought. I want to talk about PSLs here. I don't know if any of you have had a PSL meeting at Titan's house. I'd love to hear about it. There just are, it's very early still. They can only take so many appointments. You're getting your appointment based on where your current seat is, I think, and that they're starting top down, obviously. But Sean, I'd love for you to write up in here what and Ralph, write a paragraph there about what your experience has been. I wanted to read you a little bit of what feedback that a friend of mine had based on her experience. She said, a big LOL to the entire Titans organization, thinking the already small amount of loyal fans are going to shell out $35K for one singular PSL and $9,300 for each season ticket. Such a joke. And then somebody in my All 22 was just kind of talking through, the transitional experience yet. And saying, in regard to the club concept, and the club, has moved downstairs 30 to 30, maybe. He said, I think they took all the feedback from all the current club members that the current club does not deliver enough of a premium experience to justify the ticket price. Taking clients to a Titans game and club is just not that big a deal when there's better beer, better food, better everything outside of the club. So I commend them for trying to take that feedback into account. Sounds like they're trying to make it more like a Lexus Lounge experience from over at Bridgestone Arena. It's just the price point seems way out for what they're giving. And I think there's sticker shock for a lot of people that are going. Another friend of mine said the club experience they're trying to sell now is way more exclusive. He was blown away by what they had to offer, but it's clearly priced towards businesses and not really individuals. And so we're going to go through this thing in Nashville that they went through in Atlanta. And the first time the Titans played at Atlanta in the new stadium, there was a decent crowd there. but the 30 to the 30 in the lowest section was largely empty. It's either largely empty because those people are inside at the club area watching on TV, enjoying their premium liquors and food, or because those tickets didn't sell because they're so expensive. I watch the Yankees on a regular basis, and when the Yankees are at home, they are not selling the tickets that are $2,500 a piece or whatever ridiculous price, or those people are inside. And it's a terrible look and a terrible feel. And I just think that the sticker shock element is going to be something I'm getting ahead of the curve here on with you, asking you about it. Hi, Rooney. And I think it's going to be something that we're talking about a lot over the next several years as the Titans try to sell PSLs for new Nissan Stadium for 2027. I know how much this city has grown, and I know there's a ton of business here. And I know the worst seats in the new Nissan Stadium are far, far better than the worst seats in the current stadium. And so, in that regard, there's room for everybody. In that regard, the quote unquote regular family who wants to go to one game is still going to spend a lot of money, but they should have a better experience than they had. Tall Texan said he was fortunate enough to go to a Raiders game 2 years ago and watch from a client's luxury box and wasn't impressed all that much. And that's at Allegiant Stadium, which is supposed to be one of the best places. Russell Jones says, all I know is I gave a $50 refundable deposit to have a meeting about season tickets at the new stadium. However, I got the feeling that a meeting will take place a couple years from now. And I mean, it is a couple years away. I don't know. Do you want your meeting now? Do you want your meeting later? I mean, it's got to know. Sorry. Tall Texan saying I misspoke there, saying it was at Allegiant. He went to a Raiders game 2 years ago at Nissan Stadium in a client's thing in the luxury box, and he wasn't all that impressed at Nissan Stadium. I've been to other events there, graciously invited by a friend, by a sponsor, to U.S. soccer game. Very nice, but I don't want any sense that I'm insulting my colleague who took me to the game. But it's not a super high-end ritzy experience. But the people who are going to pay for this super high-end ritzy experience are, I don't know. What's the sliding scale of what those people want? If you're filthy, filthy rich and you want the extreme top end experience, that's one thing. But I think there are some business people between there who want to be able to buy that club level experience, want it to be nice, but don't want to spend, ridiculous. Steve Davidson saying $75K top end PSL, $20K low end. 1960 club tickets start at $9,500 each. Low end other club tickets $4,600 to $4,900. So low end other club tickets $4,600. Well, I don't. I'm anxious for the conversation to get out of the club. Right, it's going to be a while. Rooney says, "Why can't they sell PSLs to out of state fans? They can, and maybe they will." But they see out-of-state fans and they think that they're going to be scalpers. And they've taken so much grief, and fairly so, for the number of fans in premium seats of the other team on a regular basis at Nissan Stadium, that they're going to do everything they can to prevent that. They want Titans fans to fill the building, not Raiders fans, not Colts fans, not Patriots fans, not whoever. David Jackson says there are two different club levels. One has unlimited food and drink. The second one has unlimited food and drink, but not alcohol. And I can only imagine the price difference between those. So we'll mix in here talk of PSLs with some football talk as we move on to questions. I invite you to retweet this to broaden the audience a little bit. And wherever you're watching or listening, YouTube, Twitter, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, please like, subscribe, rate, review. All of those things help the cause in a big way. Let me take a moment to tell you about our sponsor, Zen Sports. Great place to bet right now. I got in there and did some action on the Euros. So use code TNPaul. Sign up for Zen Sports, which is Tennessee specific. Great betting website. I'll give you some tips here. Go bet against England in the Euros and go bet against the Netherlands in the Euros. They've both looked very mediocre. They're playing teams that have been perky and more interested and more cohesive. And I think England would be happy to go home at this stage. They just got no spark. They refused to play Cole Palmer. Played 20 minutes the last game. I could totally see both of them going out in the round of 16. I think those would be sound bets. I bet on each of them going out, and I parlayed the two of them going out together. I think that's a good bet there. If you use TN Paul to sign up at Zen Sports, you get a free year, and bet $10, you get a free year at paulkuharsky.com. And you also can make a no danger wager where your first bet is guaranteed. If you bet something that's plus 500 or less and you miss, you get it right back and go about your business. And if you win it, you've stockpiled your account and you're in good shape. Check them out. They're good to me. I hope you'll be good to them. Focus didn't get his text this time. I'm sorry to hear that. I got my text. I think most people in here did. Hopefully it's just a glitch. No. Russell Jones. Just to be clear, we're estimating at $20K is the cheapest PSL for any seat in the stadium. No. Club. We're talking high club level prices here. There will be PSLs that are around $4,000, I think. That's my estimation of the low end. Roberts points out that Jeff Simmons on the Rich Eisen show said something about Caleb Williams with the painted nails. That's great. I'd like to hear about it after he sacks him a few times in the opener, not before. Sorry, Robert Draper. Is Jack Gibbons the NWI of the defense, a middling player who always finds his way into the starting lineup? I sure hope not. I mean, but it's an apt comparison. I think we know Jack Gibbons' ceiling. I think we know he can be good up to a certain point, and we know what that certain point is. And they've got to aspire more quickly with Jack Gibbons than they have with NWI to get him slotted lower on the depth chart. And so now it's up to Cedric Gray. It's up to James Williams. It's up to others to make sure that Jack Gibbons doesn't have a chance to be on the field as much. And look, I undercredit Gibbons when Gibbons had some really good games early last year. And then as time went on, seems like people figured him out and he showed that he's not a regular, shouldn't be an every week starter. Now, I don't want to put too much on Tavondre Sweat and Simmons, but this applies to Kenneth Murray, and it applies to Cedric Gray, and it applies to Jack Gibbons. The better work those guys do in the interior, the cleaner that the inside linebackers are, the better success they will have, no matter who they are. But the Titans need to be better than Jack Gibbons in inside linebacker. Look, NWI, I give maybe too much grief, right? And if he's the fifth receiver on this team and they can stay healthy, he's a damn good fifth receiver, right? So I don't have a problem with him as a fifth receiver. He works. He does things the right way. He's not particularly fast, So this isn't the year to complain, really, about NWI. And the reason they haven't moved on is because it's hard to go find a better fifth receiver than NWI. NWI is a pretty good fifth receiver. Problem is when he's your third receiver. When he's your third receiver, I need somebody with a better ceiling who could do more, or your second receiver. And too often they've had him cast in those roles, and that's not good enough. It is time to get somebody on the roster, on the practice squad, the next NWI, who's got a higher ceiling than NWI in the program. Back to PSL, Sean Vaughn says, at these prices, he'll be in the last wave, but you can finance for 10 years at 9% interest. Oh, sounds like quite a deal. Focus says he's getting the feeling that these Titans like Molden a lot more than the fans. Sign Justin Simmons. Sheesh. Until Justin Simmons signs, until training camp starts with Elijah Molden as one of the starting safeties, I reserve judgment on that. Tall Texan points out, in all fairness, we don't know anything about how any of these players will do with both sides of the ball being differently coached. Well, we have an idea about some of them. I mean, we know what Denard Wilson intends to do. He's going to blitz more. He's a high energy guy. Kenneth Murray, we know what kind of limitations he showed on the field, and that their intention is to let him loose. So he's going to be more of a downhill blitzing type. Doesn't cover well in space, which makes Cedric a little confusing because the first line in the scouting report by most analysts about him is that he doesn't have great instincts, and you want the guy next to Kenneth Murray to have great instincts. We know what kind of passing offense they're going to have, that they're going to shoot for explosive plays, but also move the ball downfield with a consistent short passing game, that the running backs are going to catch a lot more balls, that the running game is going to include not just touches from handoffs, but touches from passes. Those things we know. So you have a feeling for who's going to get opportunity and be counted on, et cetera. I don't think, how is the NWI thing a head scratcher at this stage? Who would you rather have an NWI slot than NWI? How much credit do we give Vrabel for Gibbons' play, given the insight he had at the position? Slapsman. I mean, I think I think Vrabel had a lot of influence over Jack Gibbons, had a lot of influence over Jack Gibbons playing well, and probably had a lot of influence on the Titans not spending big resources. Well, I mean, they spent big resources on Monty Rice, a third-round pick. They had a nice thing going there. Avery Williamson, I'm going to forget somebody in the train here, Jaylen Brown. They were doing well at inside linebacker, and then they bombed with Monty Rice, which was a big problem. What are my thoughts on NFL going to court over the high NFL Sunday ticket packages? If I follow the story any, not really, because I'm at a game every Sunday except for a bye week where I'm watching, Red Zone, which I sign up for during the season. For my wife, anything that benefits the fans and takes away money from the league, I'm in favor of. How much, Bo asks, how much of a game sample size in the new Callahan offense do I give Levis before I start to judge if he's the future or not? Well, I give him the whole season, really. But, if he's bombing, halfway through, or if he's terrific halfway through, there's obviously you're on your course to judgment. Have I seen the little Steven Van Zandt documentary? I saw it. I was surprised how long it was. I thought it was fascinating. I learned things about a guy that I knew a lot about that I did not know, and I've been listening particularly to Men Without Women in the car. I thought it was terrific. If you are Springsteen fan or a Sopranos fan, or especially a Springsteen and Sopranos fan, you need to watch this documentary on HBO on Little Steven Van Zandt. Yeah, I didn't even know that the official flip from Miami Steve to Little Steve, but I thought it was great. The portion on the political stuff was a little bit long. Outside of that, I had no complaints. What did you think, Jordan? I thought it was really good. I don't think that they will be bringing in any other inside linebackers. I think they're going to go forward with what they have. Let's see about free agent possibilities on the edge. I haven't looked in on that lately. Carl Lawson would be my first choice, and I haven't heard anything about him. So that would be the place to start for me. And there hasn't been any rumblings about him really, which I don't understand. But really, next 3 weeks generally going to be pretty quiet. Teams are kind of dormant. This is like the cicadas going quiet for a while. Give me a second here to get on Spotrac. What else is on your mind out there? It's a good run of questions. Yeah, I don't know what kind of Rooney's asking. What are my thoughts on Farley? Any news? I think Farley can't play in the NFL. I think he'll get cut at the end of training camp. He tends to look lost. He runs very low in the pecking order. Like, it's a great story if he could overcome the injuries and the family tragedy from last year. But you got to remember where he was before he suffered this last injury, which was playing special teams. And not particularly notably. I think he's done. And I think he was a really bad draft pick. Slaps is asking me about my golf game. How's my golf game looking? That I and Levis should get out there. I'm sure Levis has a lot more appealing golf invites than I. I feel like my golf game is better because I watch a lot of golf tips on Reels. I haven't played golf in some time. But I really have a feel. DeChambeau, I was watching some tips last night about how to draw a line in the sand trap and watch where you're hitting the ball. I have a lot better sense of what to do with my lead arm. I feel really good about my golf game based on all of the tips that I have been watching. This is one of the plights of watching a lot of video on your phone. I'm trying to think of other things I feel like I'm better at just from watching the tips, but not actually taking the tips and executing them anywhere. It's kind of like a Sims life or something. Jay was at the Live event. I have mixed feelings about the Live event. I'm curious as to how it was. But the Bryson golf tip content is excellent. I mean, there's so much good golf tip content out there. It's kind of overwhelming. I would like to golf, except for the part where I feel like 12 holes is enough, except for the part where it's exceedingly hot, and except for the part where there's not a charity scramble every day to which I'm invited. Those are the things that are holding me back golf-wise. Outside of that, it's perfect. I'm scrolling back here looking for Jordan Pace has a very good question about F, marry, kill. I can't do F, marry, kill. If I kill a Titan on here, it would definitely not serve me well. It's a good question. If you were in the all 22, I could do it in the all 22. What else do we have? I will take any further questions, but to be honest, I thought that a half hour would be our time. Ralph says the PSLs for the fancy area are more than 70,000 each. Ralph, are you in for that? 70 grand? I know Ralph's got a big bank account. Ralph's got some cash. B. French says he has a friend who's a Packers fan who wants to come to Nashville to watch the game. The Packers are here. When are the Packers here? Week 3, September 22nd. Wants to come to Nashville week 3. He said the prices are way too high. Home games in Green Bay are cheaper than the current ticket. I mean, I think that probably changes in time. But I think the reason that ticket is so high, well, people want to see the Packers for one. But also I think the Packers fans are influencing that market in a big way, right? I mean, I think Titans fans are in right now, but I don't think so much so that would be a super steep ticket on the secondary market. So I'd tell them to wait and to go to Tennessee Tickets, which is the place to go because there are no hidden fees, and they're a fine sponsor of this. Yeah, leaked videos of Will Levis are not something that gets any time here. If a guy's private life interferes with his football, that's when it becomes a thing. Otherwise, we don't care. Bo asked, what are my thoughts with Roger Goodell wanting to add the extra NFL game and removing the preseason altogether? What are my concerns and thoughts with that? I think removing the preseason altogether would be fine, and I think it'd be great for fans. I think you'd need to have some scrimmages, to end these joint workouts. Have the Seahawks come to Nashville for the 3 days of work. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a couple days off scrimmage on Saturday or Sunday in some form at the stadium for a big preseason event that also would let the teams air things out to the degree that they need to air things out to be sure that they're ready for regular season football. But the sorts of things, and I can't remember what they are, but the sorts of things that the players that have been out there about the players getting in exchange for an 18th game are far too small. Players need to make massive demands in exchange for an 18th game. Some that they won't get. I mean, they need to demand grass. That the Copa America, which is going on right now, they've got grass installed in Atlanta, in Dallas, in many indoor retractable roof venues. Players need to demand grass and make it clear that their ultimate destination is grass. And they need to ask for free agency after 3 years. They need to ask for the elimination of the franchise tag. They need to make big asks. Players always lose in negotiations with the league. But if they're playing an 18th game, after all the talk about player safety and all of that, they need to make grand asks and fight and make it a big negotiation where they have to get some big chip in return. Not a bunch of little chips. Some kind of big chip tonight. Some kind of big chip in return. I said tonight because somebody's asking me about my interest in the debate. I'm interested in the debate. The second bye week, I think, is automatic. That's not a big return. Second bye week is necessary. Now, the league will somehow manage to convince the PA that that's a big win because the league is just dominant when it goes head to head with the players union. Focus asks if I'm a beach vacation guy or a mountain cold weather vacation guy. I am absolutely a beach vacation guy. My kid has no experience skiing, which is unfortunate. I would have liked for him to have that experience, but I can't see time off on my calendar and not hear the ocean and hope for waves. I like to fight waves. I like to be in waves. I like to read on the beach. I like to drink beachy drinks. My wife is a fan of the beach as well, though she took snowy vacations before me. But I don't understand mountains. I mean, I can understand going to a ski resort. I can't understand like going to the mountains without skiing for vacation. Extra roster spots are another thing. That extra roster spots would have to come automatically with that. That's not a big like win for the PA. That's an absolute necessary element. What else we got? I'll take one or two more, or we'll call it. You guys were good today. I appreciate it. Spread the word out there. Like, subscribe, follow, rate, review, all of that stuff on whatever outlet you're listening on. I appreciate it. Robert Draper, when a guy like Kyle Phillips with obvious return skills muffs 2 punts, do you cut your losses with him, or you approach these muffs as a confidence or concentration issue that can be corrected? I think it's reasonable for a new regime to try to assess him from zero, give him a clean slate. It's not just the muffs, it's the decision making. I mean, him fielding that punt in London against the Ravens with 1 second left on the clock was a failure by Vrabel. It was a failure by Ackerman, but ultimately Kyle Phillips has to be smart enough as a punt returner to know that they shouldn't have sent him back there and that he should let that ball bounce and die. And instead, he muffs it with a second left and gives them a free field goal. That's just not smart. This guy can be so good in practice as a receiver. He's so darty. He's so good at creating space underneath. But he hasn't really translated it to game situations at all. And the injury history is really bad. I don't see his path to the roster with Boyd and Jackson, the draft pick, both as slot guys. And you would think that Jackson now gets to the head of the line as the return guy. So it's going to be a very interesting camp for Kyle Phillips. And I think there's got to be reluctance in terms of punt return work for him. He's got to be close to perfect in order to reestablish himself there. And even if he's a perfect punt returner, then what's his role as a receiver if those other two guys, Boyd's on the roster. So, if Jackson's on the roster, I don't know how you find room for Phillips. He's in a very tough spot. I think it's really unfortunate that he did not do better with his chances previously, because he should be a guy. Focus. I grew up in the New York metropolitan area, and I spent 5 years in New York going to college. You think I'm going to vote for Chicago as a better pizza city? Bo wants to know, if the Titans did an all-media football skill challenge, where do I think I would do well? I'm 55. I could still kick some field goals, but I'm 55. My days as a participant, stuff like that, are numbered. All right. It's been a good talk. I appreciate everybody. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Check out paulkuharsky.com. Tell your friends. Changes coming to the site in about a month. That will be exciting. So stay tuned for that as well. Don't block the box, and be sure to lock your locks. I appreciate you very much. Have a great weekend, everybody.